Thompson's RTC is hell. You don't want to go there.
But it's where an 11-year-old boy had been living for 2 weeks when he died last November, the day before Thanksgiving.
Staff don't care. They just don't care. I already knew that, but they ain't gonna shut that place down until somebody really get hurt. I already knew it.
On November 27th, staff from the Thompson Residential Treatment Center in Greenville took a group of 20 boys to see a movie. Court records state at the end of the 2.5-hour film, one of the children, who we are calling OR, was found unresponsive in his seat, bleeding from his nose. He was pronounced dead at a hospital shortly after. The medical examiner's office determined he suffered a complication with his intestines that caused bowel obstruction, ruling he died of natural causes.
Bowel blockage. Totally preventable. Somebody wasn't paying attention. And I don't care what other medical conditions he had. That's something that someone can monitor and do to correct.
Terry LaFawn is a registered nurse. She's also a former inspector for the state.
It's not surprising, but it's infuriating.
I requested the investigative documents from the Greenville Police Department and the surveillance video from the movie theater, which we do know exists, and I didn't get either. But the state of Texas has been in an ongoing legal battle over its foster care system for more than a decade, and part of that federal lawsuit requires the state to provide information to the court anytime a child in foster care passes away. And according to federal court records, law enforcement officers told investigators with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services the day the boy died, staff initially told officers he was fine most of the day except for a possible stomachache, stating he walked in the movie on his own. But when officers watched security camera footage, they said they saw OR was unsteady on his feet and not able to walk on his own. Officers reported he looked like he was about to pass out and that staff were dragging him along by his arm before he fell to the ground. Officers said staff dragged him down the hallway, picked him up, and forced him into the theater, where there were no cameras. By the time the movie ended, he was dead.
The way them staff be treating them kids, I already knew it.
This young man, who we are not naming, lived at the Thompson RTC in Greenville for 2 years. He turned 18 and aged out of foster care last summer. Was it safe?
No, not at all. Just to be out of the middle of nowhere, that's how they was getting away with all that stuff.
Stuff like fighting between the boys who lived there. He says not only would staff not intervene, they participated.
The staff didn't really care. The staff, pay your kid to go fight.
He says staff was also violent with the children.
That's their way of putting kids in line. What can you do? It ain't no cameras, no none of that, bro. It's like there's nothing you can do in the closed doors, bro. There's nothing you can do but survive around that type of stuff.
Stuff the state had known about for more than a decade. In 2011, just 2 years after becoming fully licensed, Thompson's received 14 citations after investigators found children were choking and slamming each other, and that staff would referee the fights, make bets on who would win, and sometimes fight the children. He saw the same issues more than 10 years later.
Yeah, make bets. That's fighting scheme still going on.
Court records and state documents I obtained through an open records request reveal the state cited multiple forms of prohibited punishment, staff being physically aggressive with children, working with children without background checks, and numerous citations for failing to adequately supervise the boys in their care. In 2018, a child was hospitalized with an injury from how staff restrained him. In 2022, state officials wrote of several instances where the behavior of staff could harm children, going on to say the concern is that the administration may give staff many chances when policy is not followed. In November of 2023, a year before the child died at the theater, investigators found a caregiver choked a child while cursing at him. In January 2024, a staff member pushed a child to the floor, causing him to hit his head on a wall. The staff continued to restrain him, even though there was no indication the child posed a harm to himself or others. All incidents documented by the state, but HHS wouldn't take action to close Thompson RTC until December 4th, exactly a week after OR's death.
Why did a child have to die a year later? I mean, if staff is choking a child, that's a problem. It's categorized.
I obtained the full compliance report dating back to 2010 for Thompson's RTC, showing 232 deficiencies. 155 of them were marked either high or medium high risk. I asked LaFawn to review those records.
I mean, those are serious things. Those include things like abuse, children hurting children, staff hurting children. That's major stuff.
Court records indicate that the state's response to multiple violations from Thompson's was to increase inspections.
They're going back like within a week to do a follow-up to make sure that whatever the facility said they were going to fix, they fix it. And then 2 weeks later, they're back out there for the same stuff.
Was there somebody in the state that you felt like you could call and say, this is happening here?
If I would have told them while I was still there, they find out every single time. They be calling investigations. We never win. There's always staff word over kids' voice. They always win the investigation.
Thompson's RTC was owned by former NFL linebacker John Thompson, who played for the Houston Texans and the Cleveland Browns. I reached out to him about the allegations against his former facility and staff. I'd like to chat with you when you get some time about your residential treatment center in Greenville that was shut down. He replied, nah, I'm good. Texas Health and Human Services denied my request for an interview. I asked for a statement explaining how and why Thompson RTC was able to remain licensed and operating despite a documented history of violence and negligence. They would only say that they determined the facility posed an immediate threat and notified the center it had to stop operating on December 4th, again a week after OR died. Should this facility have been licensed?
No.
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 Our Investigates team found that not only did HHS allow Thompson's RTC to continue operating after years of violence and abuse, the state also licensed them to open 2 more facilities. You can read more about that right now on WFAA.com.